Newspaper project Debrief. Was the show successful?
My opinion is I don't think it was a success from my point of view, because we just had two directors on our little piece, and for our section I don't think that it was as good as it could have been, but I think the show as a whole, like the whole show altogether, was a success, but we didn't have our input into the whole outlook of the show because it was Gavin. So I feel that it wasn't successful because we were part-time on it, and I don't want to be a part-time director or anything because you can't see the bigger picture. And I just think that only having your section to look at and fitting that in, we didn't get the feel of the whole piece and where the actors were at as a company, and I feel that really kind of jeopardised our piece as a little...
Personally, I disagree with that because I think having smaller groups, I can completely understand where you thought that it wasn't successful because obviously yours got split around and actually you sort of lost some of the meaning of what you'd set out to do. But I think having smaller groups and being able to have being able to connect with a smaller group, we got to let people who might get swamped by a bigger company have an opportunity to do some things and explore things that they wouldn't be able to in a bigger group. So I'd say that's one of the strong successes for me.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, I'm not saying that working with a small company wasn't successful. I'm just saying because we didn't have an outlook of the whole piece because we wasn't on it full time, that we didn't see the piece as a whole, because I think everybody else's piece had like the similar mood, but Errol's and mine was kind of got lost in the piece as a whole because our piece was the same mood as the show in general, so you couldn't really differentiate our piece out of...
Well, maybe that was a positive thing, that I was fitted with the same style.
But then it wasn't memorable because of it, because there was only like snippets.
I
remember you said, like, in our last debrief that you said you would have changed the
order was wrong, I think.
Yeah, I agreed with that. What do you mean with the bottling and the game show?
Yeah,
because it was like backwards.
It was backwards, but I also think that the lighting was quite badly timed as well.
And also the music didn't fit, so we had the what song is it for the slime fighting? Teardrop, and then we had the physical section, and the music sort of didn't really fit well.
I have to agree with Sam. I feel like the process and the show was a success because of the approach we took. So we started with a script and we worked on that, and then we developed it from there. And I think in the long run that paid off rather than just going from improvisation and nothing. But if I was to do it again, then I would definitely let them explore more as actors and bring more ideas rather than us just taking complete control of everything. But I think the approach we took was a success.
Yeah, going off that, I'd say that it was a success using a script, but given the timescale, I think that was the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
If we had more time, then I would much prefer for them to be able to explore and find different things about their character.
I don't think we took complete control over it in a sense, because we all watched the video of what inspired us, and I think we all agreed.
And they were coming out with some really good ideas.
Yeah, and I think, and it's just the fact
and it always gets like not so much you, because you haven't been with us, but we're all used to working off of a script. That's the reason I think we did it like that, and it gives you something to go back to, and if you're getting lost for thoughts, go back and look at the script.
So do you think it would have been
But I
harder?
agree. To be fair, I agree with Amber, and especially with the first process. The first show, because when we did the nose back in first year, we got like stimulus. It's just like we did, like we stimuli, like they gave us their articles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel I'm not disagreeing with how you went about it, but I felt like, in my opinion, I feel it should have came from them. Like, I think writing a script for them it limited them progressing creatively, because when you have a script, you can add lots of detail to a scene. Like, you can add stuff into it that isn't written down in the scene, but you're still stuck to that one scene.
I understand what you're saying, but I think obviously we had a really short process, and it worked similar to the way it did in the nose. we did stuff on the floor and Denise went away and wrote it, and that was what we did. We just had such a short time, so we didn't have more time for them to play.
But I think the difference being is that you wrote it before they had time to play.
No, we did workshops and stuff.
Yeah, we done workshops, working on like characters, emotions, and connecting personal things.
And we introduced the scripting stages as well. Like we did first scene and the prologue.
But that's where it's different. I think you went for like characters and emotions, but whereas I think most of the other groups went for like creating scenes and improvisations, seeing their creative side of looking into the subject.
I think that's down to the director.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm not disagreeing with your option. I'm just saying.
But I think it was.
Go on, Harry.
I think it was successful that you did write a script for yours, because when we did the nose, we weren't ever as unfocused as that company, and obviously working with Denise, she's a much more experienced director than any of us are, so I think she got more out of us than we could get out of them. And going back to what you said about working part-time with them, I think they got more out of working with Gavin than they did with us, but I am quite glad that we did part-time. But I think that if Gavin had directed the whole thing, then he would have been able to make a piece more from them than if we'd scripted it for them.
I don't think we knew them enough. Like I think they didn't trust us in a sense. Like I think we needed to do more kind of trust exercises and have like a proper week with them where we just do things like that. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of the pieces seemed a bit kind of hit and miss, because there was no sense of trust in the company.
If it was as a whole company of us and them.
Yeah.
I mean, because we never got to know who worked in Harriet's group, for example, Julie's job.
No, but then to be fair, well, I saw Daniela say it as well, and I said it in my logbook. Like for our group, we didn't actually really get to know them. We just went straight into the work, really, because we didn't. What do we have? 4 rehearsals with them. Like, and to add your own piece, and you've never directed before, you're trying to like bring ideas to them, but still make it their piece. Like, we didn't have enough time to know them, which I feel wasn't great at first, because they didn't. I don't think, it's like Levi said, I don't think they trusted us at first, and they just saw us as, oh, well, you're training here too. Like, I don't think, like, obviously, like, people get that level 5 is higher than level 3, but I think in this place we're all just training. People just see it like that. Do you know what I mean?
But it's just the way that they introduce us, though, because they introduced us as the H&D lot who have been here for a couple of years, and I don't think our role, specifically as theatre directors to that specific unit, and I don't think our role was, expressed to them of what we were there to do. And I think, right at the beginning when they were saying, oh, don't call each other inters and first years, you are the Miskin wider company, and I think we were put in a whirlpool of that, so they just saw us as equals, and they didn't give us sometimes the respect of that, because they didn't know our role, and because
the fact that we had to wear blacks as well, I think played a big part as well.
And like sitting on the floor with them, I know it's the tiniest little thing, but if we'd have gone in and been more like
authoritative,
I think it would have made a difference to how we're seen, because we are. I don't think they respected us.
But I think that was sort of our fault as well. Yeah. In a sense, we should have had that authority.
No, but then we didn't want to. But then a lot of us
we didn't want to.
No, but then a lot of us said we didn't want to come across like basically that we got introduced by the directors. Yeah, and you can clearly see that like they're the directors and we're here training too. Yeah, and the way what they're saying is the way we got introduced was just like we're just the other company and we're here to help on your show. Yeah, so how can we make the authority if the authority above us has introduced us like that? We can't if we just came in, and stood up at the front and just gave this attitude like we were here to be the bosses. Do you think they would have respected us then? So I don't think. I think it's how. I think no. I know I wouldn't.
But I wouldn't want to do that. That's what I wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
But everyone's not saying to go in like that. Everyone's just saying we could have made it even in our smaller groups when you're.
I think we found that hard because, like, I know, like it's a little bit like you were saying. I wouldn't have if the H&Ds came to direct us. Like we were in the same position as firsties 2 years ago, just like them, and we because we know what they're doing and what they're going through, sometimes we found it hard to take leadership. I know, like, we had a particular problem with Ryan, who would just, every single time, he had these black shoes with red on it, and then he'd tell me, oh, I've got some at home, and then, oh, I think I've got them in my locker, and then he didn't, and like, it got to a point where I wanted to send him off the floor, but I didn't, because I know that, I just wouldn't do that.
Just don't make enemies.
But actually, it made it worse for the piece, and probably made it worse for him because he's not going to learn from that.
I think it, like Carly said, it takes time to earn their respect.
Yeah.
But I felt like, for me personally, I went in more assertive, and Errol was like the good cop, and I was the bad cop.
Yeah.
And then as time kind of evolved, and I got to know them more, then I kind of softened to them, and we got along more. But I felt like there needed to be that like demand from them, even though they are quite inexperienced as first years, because I think if I went in all really soft and let them walk over me, I don't think that the piece would have been like in the shape it was at the end.
Yeah.
But I feel if we were more, then it would have been
I agree with that. I think we should go in and, like, as you mean to go on rather than go in soft and then try and build from that. I think if you go in strong, then you can soften.
I think there was a period of time where me and Julia were sorry, Daniel, I'll let you speak after. But there was a time when me and Julia were directing, and then it got to a bit where we was going to show, was it Gavin and Carly, and then it got to a point where our piece wasn't as ready as it should have been, and that's when we became assertive, and that's when it started working.
Because I remember we showed our pieces like of what we first had with our improvisations, like way back at the first stages, and I thought, oh, our one is actually quite strong. I really like it, and for some reason it just went downhill. And the next time we showed it to everyone, there was not the same response.
Seems
And
to
I
get bored of it.
thought, what has happened? Like, and we were just standing there, just so like, not ashamed, but almost disappointed in ourselves, because I feel like I've learned that it's hard to tell it's not really anybody's fault, because you have to collaborate together to get the piece out. But it's just
Try and work it out.
It's hard to get your vision into their head.
But I do think respect is also a two-way thing. Like, if you respect them, they're going to respect you, and it's kind of a gradual thing throughout the process. I don't think any director can go in and expect a room of actors to, completely understand them. I think that it did take time to get to know them, but in the short time we did have, I think we did well in understanding them as a small group and where their creative vision was. Going back to how it was successful, I think it was successful based on the risks we all took. We all had really sensitive subjects, and I've never been involved in a piece that is quite so controversial. So I think that was really successful, that each of us really pushed it and created something that we've never actually looked at before or even discussed or anything. So,
and I think going back to the risks, we took risks by finding the humour in each subject.
The comedy.
I would say it was successful because I was thinking, like, Gavin hasn't really, or Carly haven't really been in the room with us working on our small groups, and then they was working on their own work with the whole company, and I didn't really see how it was going to fit together. But one major thing for me was that when I watched the dress run of it felt like it was in the same show. Obviously, there were things that I thought needed to be turned around, like in order, like to make it make sense. But I don't know. We all like have different styles of what we prefer to do, but for some reason, it all fit. Like, I thought the one about the robbery was like really naturalistic, but then there was something heightened in it that fit with like the heightened stuff in Julia and Errol's piece. Like, so I think that's why it was successful for me, because it had independent working with each group, but it all fit together at the end, which made the show. It didn't feel like different sketches, which I thought it was going to be.
And I think that comes from us all working together. Do you know what I mean? We've worked together we're in our third year of working together, and we understand each other's styles. So without meaning to, we've all put elements into our pieces that we work to ourselves, and I think that's why, they fitted really well.
Going off what Daniela said about taking the risks, I always wanted to do directing, but like I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it would be. So like with our group, like we didn't really know where to start. So we just, because obviously Harriet was off for quite a lot of the time, so it was just me and Levi. So like me and Levi were just clueless. So we just kept sending them off, and we're like, I'll just do some improvisation. And then Lewis, can you stop distracting me, please? So we just sent them off, and we just wanted to keep doing improvisations, and then they did bring some ideas back to us, but it was just it was hard to fit together.
It was really hard. It's really hard to do the choreography section, because I remember me and Levi, we came up with some stuff, and then we were teaching them, and they either weren't listening or they just couldn't be bothered, and then we asked them to try and devise something, but I found it really difficult to get them to bring their own ideas to the piece, which is why I thought it worked that you'd written a script, so they had something to go off. It wasn't just completely from scratch.
Strangely, what?
Oh, sorry.
Go on, Daniela.
No, I was just going to say about them bringing their own ideas. I sort of found that I liked it when they came up with new ideas and improvisations and things, but in a way I kind of found it hard to then define what I should use and what I shouldn't, because then I thought, like, we didn't want to kind of leave any of their ideas out of it, but when you can see the bigger picture and you can see what material's actually working and what's not, you feel like you have to make those decisions, and I feel that was a weakness of mine, because I felt like I should keep all the material, when actually I think we should have been more ruthless and just gone with the really good
do what's best for the piece.
and just gone with the ideas that really do work.
Going off weaknesses, like we'll say, what was your weaknesses as a director?
Keep going.
Wait, just
your
for
weaknesses as a
Yeah,
director.
just I want to put something in there. Like for me, I feel like there's sort of been like ups and downs for this process. I mean, time-wise, we had 4 weeks on this process, and not all 4 weeks we've been working on them solidly. We had 1 week where we worked on them fully, but other days we worked with them like for the morning or the afternoon, because we'd be doing like other things. But I think with the time we had, it was good that we got like our piece out. But I think it was a bit frustrating when there were times when we told him like, "Oh, go away, like do something while we talk about stuff." Like I remember there was a time like when me, Lewis, and Daniela went off, and we asked him to just improvise something, and whilst we were talking about stuff, I could just always hear him like talking, and, like not about the work, but they were just like mucking about, and it felt like I didn't want to be in that teacher mentality that I had to feel like I had to go and like sort of babysit them and make sure that I knew I could trust them in what they were doing, because I didn't want it to be like that. But I mean, I think it had its ups and downs.
I think that also just comes down to experience as well. Though I think when we were in first year, there were times when a director would tell Colin to devise something, and we would all be really stunted for creativity and not know where to start and be really confused. So I think because we've been through that, we can empathise a bit more with
I just think
that.
we didn't trust ourselves. They need to find that trust in their work.
So going back from that point that Charlie made about doing this process, I'm actually I didn't know what to expect at the start, but I'm actually really glad I did the process. I feel like any actor should take that role of a director and experience it, because it gives you a different perspective on acting, and it really helps you develop your ideas, and it just it really like grows your creativity as an actor. So I'm really glad I've done it, and I would definitely recommend any actor in the following years to do it.
Lewis, what was the question?
So what was your weaknesses as a
individual,
as a director? Yeah, but as a director.
I think the main weakness. The main weakness for me personally was like we said about being assertive. Because I didn't want to come across like an arsehole, but then I needed to, kind of thing. Because I think it was a bit like give and take. Like if you give them authority, then they're going to respect you more. Because I feel like that we weren't respected enough as directors.
Yeah, going off that, because I was thinking.
Going in a circle, guys.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk and let everyone talk.
So I think that hang on. I think that I agree with your point, and it was about trusting what we knew, trusting our knowledge as actors, and that we did have more experience than them, so not going in feeling on their level and that we couldn't make a decision and be ruthless like Daniela said.
Yeah. I don't know if it was a weakness of us, be it the assertiveness thing. I don't know if because I wasn't that assertive, but
I'm talking about myself, like I wasn't assertive.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about myself. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You shot me. So like Julia said, the good cop, bad cop thing, and then I was thinking if that's it might not be a weakness because I was just thinking of chemistry as a directing duo.
I think it was contrasting because
So
we
that
were
was
both
good.
like the two different sides. I think they related to us for like different things, and they looked to us for different things. And personally, I think a weakness and a strength, because it's kind of a bit of both. I feel that we like either gave them too much freedom, and like after letting them create so much, we just went with the idea of creating so much material that if it's cut down, it wouldn't matter because they've created it. And then I feel like after like putting their improvisations and writing the script to what they've actually said in the videos, I felt like when the material got cut, it was your section that you created, my section that I created, and only their little game show that they've created from all the material that they had and that they devised. I felt like the piece wasn't theirs anymore, even though, like, because I felt like we didn't structure it enough, and I felt like I don't know, I should have been there more as a director.
We should put our stamp more on it.
I think I just guided them instead of actually like moulding it more.
Yeah.
I think the job of a director is to give direction.
I think a weakness of mine was thank you, Sam. I think a weakness of mine was that I kind of didn't want to say no to their ideas. Like I feel like our group especially, I don't know about others, yeah. We like Charlie, can you stop being a guy? Yeah, what's it like they would bring an idea and we would try the idea because obviously you should try every idea that comes your way, but we would find it hard to tell them, like we wouldn't tell them if an idea wasn't working. We would know with each other, like when we would discuss it, that it wasn't working, but we wouldn't tell them. And another thing is like the concepts we got was the eating disorders and online personas. But we had the one about, was it GM foods?
Oh,
Was it GM?
Yeah.
And I feel like that really stunted what we were doing because it had a major connection to eating disorders and the online personas because of how like what that food does to you. But I felt like we didn't want to disappoint the actor who brought that article to the floor because she seemed really like passionate about putting it in the piece, but we just didn't have long enough to create that within it where it made sense. So the GM foods was in it during the model section, but it was missed completely, and I felt like we focused too much on that. Strangely enough, even though it was missed, we did focus on trying to put it in there, which I don't think we should have done.
But I think if you try and focus on too many things, you lose like the detail in one thing. So I think maybe we had too many ideas.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to think about the bigger picture.
Yeah. And I also think we were a bit over analytical with things. Like we'd look at a scene and then I'd be thinking it through too much rather than just seeing what happens and being a bit more spontaneous with it. I kind of, because of the time pressure.
Yeah, I felt it's hard. One thing I've learned from doing this directing thing as an actor is that you really need to bring ideas to the floor, because like we would give them an idea, they would go create it. So we was like challenging them creatively, but I wouldn't really. A couple of them were, but most of them weren't bringing ideas. They would want us to say, okay, well, can you do it like this? And then, but you would just give them a note, like, oh, it needs more energy, like more vocal, or something like that, and it wouldn't happen. And I felt like you literally had to show them how to do it, which I don't think you should do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
You really want to like spoon feed them with everything because they've got to come up with it themselves sometimes.
I think it also comes down to being inspired. Like I learned that a director has to be inspired, and I valued research a lot, and I think that's the same as being an actor. Like if they were a bit more knowledgeable perhaps about this subject, they might have be more inspired about something they're passionate about, like the GM food.
Yeah, because I felt like ours didn't. Ours had a story of Jack's character going through it, but I don't think like we could have based it on real like life things, like your this idiot's one, Harriet's piece about the robbery. No, I called you one. Yeah, like that was a real life scenario that actually happened, and I felt like was the characters made up in that, or were they the actual people?
No, they were made
up. Oh. Like I don't think like we had these characters though that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I
That
agree.
created the story.
Yeah.
We just had that one, and I think we focused too much on that one character.
I found this
Yeah.
process really hard because I've never actually produced the show or been in a show myself. So I was directing and creating this material, you know, but I've never actually been an actor in that position myself. So it was really hard to come up with ideas, and I was like doubting myself a lot because I didn't know whether this was how it was done and stuff like that. But towards the end, when I found, you know, when me and Alex started doing like the physical work and stuff like that, I think in our group we really did play to our strengths in terms of Sam doing the script and us like focusing more on the physical stuff and stuff
I think we had a good like routine going. I'd say one of my weaknesses was like not stepping back and like just taking a minute to see the bigger picture, because we were obviously so aware of that time scale and tried just ploughing through everything. But I think the system, like I was in here at one point going through just like the basis, and then you'd take a scene off and look at more details. I think we had a good system, and we were looking at, you know, our strengths when Carly came in and you were devising that physical
But
section.
I did feel
I think
like,
it worked really well.
but I feel like, you know, like at the beginning, I wasn't saying much and I didn't really have a lot of input because, I don't know, I suppose it was like a lack of self-confidence, but I feel like, yeah, towards the end I started
But yeah,
to,
you grew in that, didn't
yeah,
you?
trust more in my own opinion and stuff like that.
I think a weakness of mine was the planning side of it, for going in every day, knowing that we're going to work with them, and I didn't know what we was going to do in that day and how to approach it. And I know I know it's not about planning it and you've got to take what they give from you and evolve that. But like when something was finished, I'd look at Sam and Alma and be like, what we're doing next, and like give them like, my eyes would like grow and like, ooh,
And then
what's
it's like,
happening?
touch all four walls.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and just like think of something to pick up the energy. But so I think as a plan of action to improve that next time, plan more. At least have an idea of where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I agree.
About picking up energy, I feel like looking back on it, I don't feel that in our group. I feel like the energy was always quite lacked, and I remember when we sent them off once because they were not focused, and I feel like a weakness of mine personally was patience. I thought we had such little time. The piece was in the right state, and I thought, and you're not focusing. I said to them, like, it's you who's on stage, it's not us at the end of the day. And, like, you need to work with us. This is not, you know, us telling you what to do. This is your piece. This is the material you have created. And I think if we emphasise that from the beginning, and I don't know, I just feel it should have been more fun. I don't feel I had. I don't feel like I had a lot of fun. I feel like there were fun moments, but I felt like because of the pressure, I don't think it was as fun as it could
I
have
think they became quite lazy. In terms of, like, well, you wrote the script, and then they had the script for how long? A few days, but they still didn't even look over it.
Alright guys, has everybody answered as a director what was your weaknesses?
Levi and Connor.
Similar to everyone else, I'd say having authority, but like feeling like you can't. Personally, I think that to direct, like, you really do need like so much more experience. You know, I feel like I'd need like 10 years of like acting before I would want to even think about directing. I feel like, I don't know, because sometimes I'd like give notes, but then I'd think I can't even do that, or sometimes I struggle with that, so I'd feel like a hypocrite for giving that note. So I feel like I would rather take, like I said, 10 years, then decide. But in terms of a weakness, I'd just say try to have more authority.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like that's probably my weakness about having that authoritative nature, because sometimes I didn't want to come across as having that sort of teacher mentality, because if I sort of have that attitude towards them, then it's possible that they might not listen to me in the future.
I should move up.
Yeah.
What would you change if you had more time?
I changed our physical section.
I really liked your physical section though. I thought it was really visually strong, like, and with the red stuff.
I really like
Yeah,
that.
lovely.
Thank you, but we did.
We didn't.
That was the direction we were going in, but it wasn't as strong as I think. As it,
When I thought of it, I thought of like something so big and
Yeah,
like it was going to be so
like
amazing,
spectacular.
and like it was just
Really-
going to blow people away. But then it was just like literally 15 seconds of them just clicking.
waving a scarf. The lighting. I wasn't that kind of like, sorry. And I think it's the fact that they weren't interested in that section.
Yeah.
There was so much resistance, and it was only when Gavin said to them, "No, go with it because the stylistic stuff works." I think they imagined a much more naturalistic piece.
Yeah,
than it was.
whenever we tried to get them to be a bit more kind of theatrical, they were a
Yeah.
bit kind of like,
Yeah.
They always kept going back to like doing a scene.
well, they
We-
would improv for no reason. Like we'd say,
Yeah.
oh, these are the lines, they're the lines, but they'd still decide to like create little unnecessary.
And like 10-minute pauses in
It's
between each
it's
line.
it's kind of like they didn't really know any other type of acting apart from just doing a scene. Because like we try and tell them to do something different,
Yeah.
but then the same idea would be brought back of
I
like,
think
oh, how about we
improvisation
have the
is
robbers
okay,
coming in?
but they
and
didn't
then
know
killing
yet
all the
about the fact
hostages.
of like doing it like you can't just improvise but do it subtly. You can't just be like yeah, like that's stuff like that. I hate seeing that. Whenever I see that and I know they're improvising, it's like if you're going to improvise, you need to be definite in what you're doing.
Yeah, you need to have a complete understanding of the scene.
Otherwise, it's just like
It's
if
best
you're just saying yeah, and then like making a noise and doing that, it's not. Yeah.
But I think they've learnt from that, from you
Yeah.
guys, and that's something that they can take on, knowing to be a bit more theatrical, let's say. So,
And definite.
good job, guys.
I think that like
Cheers.
going off the script
Thanks,
thing,
mate.
like our actors got like a bit. I don't know if jealous of like your group getting a script. They were like, oh yeah, all the other groups are getting scripts, but obviously that's not the route we was wanting to take.
Only one.
But I think that sort of
Yeah, no, we
pushed it
didn't.
back.
We didn't have a script either. Like we had some like what they said. Like we asked them, like Jack. We asked him to write his own monologue and post it up on the Tumblr site. He did that. Courtney, she wrote the gym scene. Like the girls, we in the modelling. Like that was all improvised. We got them to work on that, and then we wrote it down, and then they never actually. We gave them bits of like papers like to run the scenes off, but there wasn't a set script. Like on our Tumblr, like, it just has. Our script was mainly cues of changes of things happening. It had lines in it, but that was just for it to be like one set thing. But it wasn't a full, like we didn't have a script. Do you know what I mean? Like I would say our piece changed a lot. Like every time I saw it, like I would say something changed in it because there wasn't a definite thing. And maybe that's something I would probably change because I think having freedom in a scene comes from, like what you said, Sam, knowing the scene that well. I don't think freedom comes from not knowing the scene and adding stuff. And adding stuff in for the sake of it and to please yourself, not your audience. So that's one thing I would change is to have like a definite like objective of each scene because, for example, the girls scene, the sleepover scene, that killed to me every time I saw it. Like it really, I don't know. There was something. It was very like the scene was very unbelievable. I thought that I could understand like girls saying, "Oh yeah, but that's what really happens." But in terms of like how the feel of the scene and how it looked on stage, it looked a bit too forced. Like with the phone, like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
agree.
mean? Like
I
it was
think
a
with
bit.
that scene, yeah, like you said, I think loads of girls can relate to it, and I think it was a realistic scene, and but I think it was just like you said, the way it looked.
Yeah.
It was too far upstage, and it wasn't brought out to us at all. So that's why it didn't look right. I don't think.
That scene
I think
felt
the
very
scene
internal.
in itself was a really good scene.
Yeah.
But I think I would want to change the transitions as well, how we got into that and the flow of the
Yeah.
story, because I think we put it all together really quickly, and then the flow of it wasn't great, and it kind of felt a bit rushed.
Going into from the sleepover scene into the park, She just walked up. She just walk up stage, and then people will just gather. There was no like significance for like it's a complete different location. As we did in the schools tour, like in the Secrets Out, like there would be like a transition music and like a new location, like made with the same thing we made the last location with, but there was a significant transition, which I don't think we had in our one. The only one that I would say was significant was from the model scene into the DVD thing, because like there was a bit that like it wasn't a massive transition, but it was a clear change of it's completely different. Like the music changed, the feel of the scene changed. So yeah, so I would say transitions as well.
And everything needed to be more polished as well, and like have more intention, like, especially the opening. I think that needed more polishing and stylistic technique into it.
For our group, I think something we could have changed was physically building up a climax, because I felt, and physically, like literally, I felt it was a lot on the floor, and we didn't use the blocks, the different levels at all, and it was only used in the scenes that everyone came on, and Gav and Carly directed them to use it. And I think we could have used our space more in the sense of
which bit are you talking about?
I would have liked for them.
Which bit are you talking about?
like our piece.
You know which bit inside it? All of it, or are you just talking about?
Or any time that it
We
could
just
have
didn't
been.
use many levels.
We didn't
We
use
used
many
the chairs for the classroom scene, but we didn't.
Yeah,
Because I was going to say, I thought it built up quite well. Do you know when you had this bit?
Yeah, but I mean, literally, physically, there was no.
I know.
But I would
Looking up.
put that down to the script. It kind of restricted us.
Yeah, but I think we could. But we didn't. When we was in the studio, we didn't even think to use the blocks. So
I think we should have, done more like workshops and.
Yeah,
got
I
to
would
know
have
each
loved
other
for
a little
them
bit
to
better
have
at the start.
more time to explore, so we could have, made a better script.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
that was the end of our debrief for the newspaper project. Thank you.
Hold on. Wait. One word each, starting from Alex, going to the right of Alex. One word to sum up your experiences of the directing unit on the newspaper project.
Unit 68.
Enlightening.
Going to Alex's right.
Doesn't matter.
Risk.
Tedious.
Stressful.
Interesting.
A new experience.
Thrilling.
Challenge.
Brief.
Oh, I was going to say challenging as well. Is that allowed?
Yeah, of course it's.
Okay.
I thought it was exciting.
Thank you. We've been the Tightrope Theatre Company, debrief of the newspaper project.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.